Now that the planning is done, let's dive into the project and let's actually build this application. For this, I opened a brand new project created with Create React App. Nothing has been changed here yet. Now, in this project, I first of all want to enable CSS modules so that I can make sure that the CSS classes we create in a CSS file can be scoped to a specific component in our application so that they are not applied globally when we would accidentally reuse the same CSS class. For that, I need to eject the project, as you learned. So let's do that first. Let's run npm run eject in the newly created project. And this will now ask us if we really want to eject. So I will confirm this with Y for yes. And now, as we saw it before in the module where I showed you how to implement CSS module, you get access to the config in the config folder and there to the two Webpack configuration files. Now let's dive into the first of the two and search for the part where you have the CSS test and the CSS loader. There, as I showed you in the mentioned module, you have to add modules true to the options of that loader and add the local ident name option to basically define the CSS class name it will automatically generate and assign. This should take the original name, then two underscores, then the local name of the component, and then a randomly generated hash with hash base 64:5. This will generate these unique CSS class names, which are then assigned automatically once we imported them through that object from the CSS file, as I showed you in that module. Now copy these two lines with modules and local ident name and go to the other Webpack config file too. This is the config file for the production build, and of course there we also want to ensure that we can use CSS modules. So enter it here in the options. Make sure to close that string here. Enter it here in the options for the CSS loader so that both Webpack config files have been adjusted and saved. And with that, we got our project set up and we can get started. Now let's do some cleanup work. Let's remove that logo.svg file, which was created automatically. I don't need that. And in the app.js file, we can get rid of the import of that file. Therefore, we can also clean up the app.js content here, remove the class name from the div, and remove the app CSS import here even, and remove the app CSS file. I don't need the styling here right now. I will leave the global styling here though, but in the index CSS file, where I set up my global body style, and which I still import normally in quotation marks by referencing the file and not importing a class's object, so therefore it will get applied globally. In that CSS file, I want to set the font family to another font. We could of course use that, but I picked a different one which I find a bit more beautiful basically. I want to use Open Sans, and for that you can simply search for Google Fonts, and on the Google Fonts page, as I just mentioned, it's this Open Sans font here. Now once you selected this, you can click on it at the bottom to customize it, and there I don't just want to pick the regular one, let's also pick up the bold one in case we need this, in case you want to have some bold text, for example for headings. Now with that, let's go to embed, and there you find a link to the Google CDN from which you can import this font. And this is perfectly fine, this is exactly the approach I want to use. So now with that link, let's go back to our project folder, to the public folder, and to the index.html file, and there I will add it right above the title. Now, speaking of the title, I'll also adjust this to my burger because, well, this should be the name of my application here. With that, the setup of the project is pretty much finished. We can now start writing our React application and implement that component tree we designed in the last lectures. So let's move on and start developing these components in the next lecture.